Am I on? Hello! How you doing? Hey, you guys. What's up? Oh, Naruto's here. What's up, Naruto? Hey, DSK. How are you doing? Hey, Hope. Welcome back. Sakura. Hey, Nikki. Hey, Losh. Tanjong Yang Jet. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Hey, Jefferson. What's up? Hey, Gabriel. It's been a while. You had to go back to school when your university reopened. Hey, congrats. Congrats going to school. I finally caught up on these videos. My last live video was number 4. So you've been binge watching all weekend. That's a lot of binge watching. Number 4. We're at number 21, dude. Hey, Lady Maya. Oh, what's up, Isaac? Titus. Dun, 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 dun. How are you guys? It's dark these days, right? Look at my window. It's super dark. Usually when we start, it's still the sun is still out. What's up, Jefferson? Okay, so before the stream, I drove like 20 minutes to to this local Japanese supermarket, and I bought some snacks. See what I do for snacks? All right. So I bought a bunch, so it's gonna last like a couple of weeks. But I won't show them all. I'll show you what I'm gonna eat though. Check this out. Ooh. This is shredded squid. Spicy shredded squid. Let's see what this tastes like. Like, I remember when I was young, my dad would kind of make these. Not this particular one. I don't know what this is. But we would have squid and we would roast them by the fireplace. So I have very fond memories of shredded squid. Yeah. He had a paper route. So yeah, it was like, yeah, he was doing odd jobs and stuff because we were immigrants. So he got a job as like a newspaper person. He had a newspaper route, and we had a bunch of newspapers, right? Like I remember like stacks of newspapers everywhere in our home, and he, I don't know, I think he kind of cheated because he wouldn't deliver all of them, so we would always have extra stacks of newspapers, which are perfect for fireplaces. So we would burn all these newspapers. Modern day book burning at the Linfamy house. So we would burn those, and we would roast shredded squid in the fireplace. What's up, Mike? How's it going? I am doing very well. It's getting cold these days. Yeah, it's like, what, 45 degrees outside, or 50, which is really cold in California. What's neck? Yeah, it's squid. All right, let's see what this tastes like. Ooh. You see it? Come on. That's good. It's not that spicy. It's a little bit tangy. I can kind of taste the smokiness, but it's not as good as freshly smoked squid like you do at the fireplace. Well, it's pretty good. Gonna have another one. Oh. Mike Fantasia. Oh, Frank Drevin, I do remember you. Hey, welcome back. Yeah, I'm glad you could join. Yo, 50 degrees is cold, okay? I live in California, where we have like 75 degrees. You know, just last week, it just recently got cold. But last week, during noon, it's around like 70, 75 degrees, which is amazing. Hey, Freddie. Freddie says newspaper boba is the best flavor. Newspaper boba. Yeah, we should make it. You should try honey soaked bee larva. I have had bee larva before, actually. My dad takes care of honeybees, and we tried some bee larva once, it was okay. It was all right. It was fried. Nothing to write home about. It snowed about a week ago, and now it's so warm. People are wearing shorts. Yeah, but you're in Canada. How warm is it until people start wearing shorts? Like 0 degrees? How cold is it right now? All right, all right, all right. So, should we start? Bee larva does not have honey taste. It doesn't taste like anything. It tastes just bland, I guess. Unless you fry it with something. Yeah. Maybe we should have prepared it better. 20 degrees Celsius. I don't know what 20 degrees Celsius is. What is Celsius? Does Celsius even exist? Put it in terms that we know. What is that, like 50 degrees? Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so what happened last week? All right. So last chapter, the sword branch of the Huashan Sword School, and this is a recap, by the way. Oh, I burped. Squid smell. Yummy. So last week, the sword branch of the Huashan Sword School tried to take over, right? And they challenged the master wife to a duel, and then Ling Huchong jumps in and he replaces the master wife, and he goes, "Oh no, you fight with me now, okay?" And he picks up a broom and he uses the broom as his weapon, because he saw in the cave paintings in the back wall, a lot of the moves that he can use to counter this guy's sword moves. So he starts fighting and he just beats him up, right? He knows all of these counter moves, so he just destroys this dude. And everyone knows it. Okay, he wins, but then the dude got mad because he's like this senior guy, and then he's fighting this junior, and he's getting his ass beat. So he keeps on fighting, but then he gets disarmed by Ling Huchong, and he at that moment, without a sword, he uses a palm strike and attacks Ling Huchong with it, and wounding him, right? And Ling Huchong does this thing where he spits out blood, which happens a lot in these types of novels. And right at that moment, the Peach Valley's the 6 fairies, they come up and they hoist this guy up into the air and they rip him open, right? They rip him into 4 pieces, right? So you have this fireworks of blood and guts and gore and intestines flying everywhere, and it's great. And then they pick up Ling Huchong and they run him out of town. They run him out of there, and they did it in like 2 seconds, so no one had any chance to react. And they pull Ling Huchong, our hero, out of the school into I don't know where they go, but they go into their hiding place or whatever, and they try to cure him, okay, because he just got palm striked, and he's about to die. So they try to heal him. Unfortunately, they're six freaks. They're six old men, but they seem like kids, right? They have the behaviors of kids, and they start arguing on how to heal him. And then all six of them, have a different way to heal him, and they decide to try to heal him in their own different ways at the same time. Okay, so it's probably not a good idea. So they start healing him, and they inject their chi energies into his body, all six different streams of chi energy. And Ling Wuchang is totally suffering. He's having the worst time of his life, and he feels hot, he feels cold, and he goes in and out of a coma. So it's just really bad. And I think that's where we stop. That's it. Yeah, how's that? That's the recap. Oh, we need a blood spitting sound effect? Maybe. Oh no. They do seem like Oompa Loompas, except they don't sing though, unfortunately. I wish they made wireless heating pads. Yeah. Switching to the live screen. All right. Let's begin. Oh, wait. No problem. All right. Chapter 11. Energy Streams, Part 2. So I think, let's see what happened last time. All right, so Ling Wuchang got out of his coma, and he's asking to drink wine. Asking for wine because he's an alcoholic. Doesn't matter if I'm gonna die or not. I've got to drink my fill first, Ling Wuchang muttered in between groans. Sure, I'll go get some wine, Branch Fairy replied, and soon he brought back a big kettle of wine. Ling Wuchang's spirit immediately shot up when he smelled the wonderful scent of wine. Feed me, he requested. Branch Fairy plugged the kettle spout into Ling Wuchang's mouth and slowly poured the wine into it. A moment later, Ling Wuchang finished the entire kettle of wine to the last drop, and his mind also started to work better. Wine has the opposite effect on me. My master always said that among all the great heroes in the world, the toughest had to be Peach. Among all the great heroes in the world, the toughest had to be the Peach what? Peach Valley's six fairies asked in unison, all feeling totally anxious as if someone was tickling their hearts with a feather. Had to be Peach. Peach Valley's six fairies, the six fairies said in unison. That's right, Ling Wuchang confirmed. My master also said that he really wished to have the chance to drinking together with Peach Valley's six fairies and make friends with them. Then he would ask those six great heroes, Peach Valley's six fairies said in unison. Yeah, Ling Wuchang confirmed again. Then he would ask those six great heroes to give all the apprentices a demonstration and perform their unique and superb kung fu skills. Peach Valley's six fairies all started talking immediately afterwards. Then what next? How does your master know that we have superb kung fu skills? The headmaster of the Huashan school is really a very nice guy. We've got to make sure that we don't even break a branch on Mount Huashan. That's of course. We won't even let anyone else break a branch on Mount Huashan. We'll be very glad to make friends with your master. Let's go up Mount Huashan right now. Ling Wuchang quickly picked up the line. Right, let's go up Mount Huashan right now. Alright, now he's tricking them to go back up the mountain. Wasting no time, Peach Valley's 6 fairies carried Ling Huchong and immediately headed toward Mount Huashan. After walking for quite a while, Root Fairy suddenly cried out, "Wait a minute! The little nun wanted us to bring the lad to see her. Why are we taking him to Mount Huashan? If we don't bring the lad to see the little nun, wouldn't we have just won another bet? 2 wins in a row. That will be quite embarrassing." "Big brother said it right this time. Let's bring him first to see the little nun. We will go up Mount Huashan afterwards, so we won't be winning it one more time," Trunk Fairy replied. Trunk Fairy agreed. The 6 of them turned around and started heading south. "Does the little nun want to see a living person or a dead one?" Ling Huchong asked, feeling very worried. "Of course she wants to see a living lad, not a dead lad," Root Fairy answered. "If you don't send me up Mount Huashan, I will shut down my arteries immediately and never come back to life again," Ling Huchong threatened. "That's great. It must be a very advanced technique to be able to shut down your arteries. Please tell us the details," Fruit Fairy said happily. "As soon as you master this technique, you drop dead instantly. What good does it do to learn that technique?" Trunk Fairy rebuffed. "It is still useful if you are forced by others to do things and your life have become a living hell, and all there left are unbearable worries, then it makes perfect sense to shut down your arteries," Ling Huchong claimed while panting hard. Peach Valley's 6 fairies' faces fell at those words. "The little nun just wants to see you. She has no ill intention. We aren't forcing you either." "I know the 6 of you have very good intents," Ling Huchong said with a sigh, "but if I can't tell my master and get his permission first, I won't comply, even if that means I'll have to give up my life. Besides, my master and master wife had long wished to meet the six legendary great heroes," Peach Valley's 6 fairies said in unison. Ling Huchong nodded his confirmation. "Fine, we'll send you back to Mount Huashan then," Root Fairy finally agreed. Several hours later, the group of 7 was back on Mount Huashan once again. As soon as the apprentices of Huashan School spotted the group of 7, they dashed back and reported it to Yue Buchun. Hearing that the 6 freaks had kidnapped Ling Huchong had just returned, the Yue couple immediately greeted out with a bunch of apprentices, feeling completely astounded. Peach Valley's 6 fairies all traveled at a great speed, so as soon as the Yue couple stepped out of the House of Integrity, they could already see the 6 freaks walking toward them along the stone slab road. 2 of the 6 freaks carried a stretcher with Ling Huchong lying still on it. Madame Yue rushed forward hurriedly to check on Ling Huchong. What immediately caught her eyes were his 2 sunken cheeks and a sallow face. She reached out to check his pulse, but what she found only confirmed the worst. Ling Huchong's pulse was so weak and out of order. He was barely alive. Oh, so they totally did a number on him. But maybe he would already be dead if they hadn't healed him or tried to heal him. Chong! Madame Yue cried in shock. Master wife, Ling Huchong murmured after he slowly opened his eyes. "Chong, I'll seek revenge for you." Tear filled Madame's eyes as she drew her sword, ready to stab Flower Fairy, who was one of the 2 carrying the stretcher. "Wait!" Yue Buchun shouted. He cupped his hands and saluted the Peach Valley 6 fairies. "Please, pardon me for having not greeted the 6 of you with proper manners. Will you bestow me the honor by informing me of your names and which school you're from?" Hearing those words, the Peach Valley 6 fairies were stunned with a mixed feeling of anger and disappointment. When they heard Ling Huchong's words, they had thought that Yue Buchun had truly admired them, the 6 brothers. Who would have expected that the first sentence out of Yue Buchun's mouth was actually asking for their names? Obviously, Yue knew absolutely nothing about the Peach Valley 6 fairies. We heard that you truly admired us 6 brothers. Could that be a false statement? But how can you be so ignorant of us? What a shame, Root Fairy said. Didn't you say that among all the great heroes, the toughest had to be Peach Valley's 6 fairies? Ah, I got it. The name Peach Valley's 6 fairies must have long resounded in your ears, but you simply have no clue that we are the Peach Valley 6 fairies. Guess we can't blame you, Trunk Fairy followed. Second brother, he said that he really wished to have a drink with Peach Valley's 6 fairies and make friends with them, but once the 6 of us really showed up on Mount Huashan, he looked neither wildly happy nor willing to get us some wine. So it turned out that he does know the 6 fairies' great fame, but doesn't know the 6 fairies' faces. Ha ha, that is so hilarious. Branch Fairy picked up the line. Yuebu-chun was completely baffled by those words. Not able to make any sense out of them, he simply replied coldly. You call yourselves the Peach Valley's 6 fairies. I am only an ordinary person. How dare I make friends with 6 fairies? Peach Valley's 6 fairies instantly felt great joy. That would be no problem. We are friends of your apprentice, so we might as well make friends with you, Branch Fairy declared. Even though your kung fu skills are too ordinary, we won't be looking down upon you. You don't have to worry, Fruit Fairy comforted him. If you have any questions in your kung fu study, you can feel free to ask us. Of course, we'll give you some pointers, Flower Fairy promised. Oh, many thanks for that, Yuebu-chun said with a slight smile. You don't need to thank us. Now that we, Peach Valley's 6 fairies, consider you a friend, then of course we'll say everything we know with no reserve, Trunk Fairy replied. Why don't I demonstrate some cool techniques to everyone of the Huashan school and widen your horizons? Fruit Fairy suggested. Madame Yue had no idea that the 6 brothers were really a bunch of childish and artless guys who lacked common sense. What they said were actually meant for showing their sincere kindness, but these words sounded so offensive and insulting in Madame Yue's ears, she could no longer hold her anger. Raising her arm evenly with her shoulder, she pointed the sword tip right at Fruit Fairy's solar plexus. Great. Let me get my lesson first and check out your special kung fu in weaponry, Madame Yue rebuked. The Peach Valley 6 fairies rarely use weapons when we spar with people. Didn't you say that you truly admired our kung fu skills? How come you didn't know that part? Fruit Fairy said with a grin. In Madame Yue's ears, Fruit Fairy's words sounded even more insulting. I didn't know that part, she yelled, as she suddenly made a lunge with her long sword. The thrust was so rapid and sudden, carrying a tremendous force with it. Fruit Fairy had already thought of Madame Yue as a friend and never expected her to start such a fierce attack all of a sudden. Within a split of a second, the sword tip had already reached his chest. If he had wanted to defend himself, he would still have had enough time to do so with his superb kung fu skills, but since he was such a cowardly type, he was simply struck dumb and completely forgot to dodge, only watching in terror as the sword penetrated his body. Uh-oh. Branch Fairy leapt forward hurriedly and struck Madame Yue in the shoulder with his palm. Madame Yue let go of her sword and stumbled a couple of steps back, leaving the long sword stabbed into Fairy's chest, wobbling up and down. Fruit Fairy and the rest of the fairies all gasped in terror. Branch Fairy picked up Fruit Fairy and leapt back in a hurry, while the rest of the 4 fairy rushed forward and lifted Madame Yue by her 4 limbs in incredible speed. Yuebu-chun knew too well what was going to happen next. The 4 freaks would tear at the same time and rip Madame Yue's body into 4 pieces. Even though he was pretty good at staying calm, his wrist still trembled as he sent out 2 thrusts toward Root Fairy and Leaf Fairy, separately with his long sword. Lying on the stretcher, Ling Huchong could still see the dangerous state his master wife was in. In great despair, he struggled up and shouted, "Don't hurt my master wife, or I will shut down all my arteries." Before his voice even faded, blood had squirted out from his mouth. Ling Huchong fell back down, unconscious. That lad is gonna shut down his arteries. We can't let that happen. Let go of the bitch. Root Fairy yelled out as he dodged the thrust from Yue Buchun. The 4 fairies dropped Madame Yue on the ground. Greatly worried about Fruit Fairy's fatal injury, they ran after Branch Fairy and Fruit Fairy quickly. Yue Buchun and Yue Lingshan rushed over to Madame Yue's side at the same time. Before they even had a chance to reach out and prop Madame Yue up, she had already leapt back onto her own feet. Feeling a mixture of extreme terror and rage, she couldn't help but tremble. Her face looked completely pale and sallow. Oh, she almost died. Junior Apprentice Sister, don't be angry. We'll seek our revenge for sure. Those 6 guys are very tough enemies. Fortunately, you have already killed one of them, Yue Buchun whispered. Madame Yue's heart hammered even more as she remembered the scene several days earlier when Cheng Buyo was ripped apart alive. She murmured, yet could no longer speak normally because her entire body was still shaking hard. Lingshan, why don't you take your mother back in to have a rest? Yue Buchun said to his daughter, knowing that his wife had been completely horrified. Yue Buchun walked by Ling Huchong to check on him. There was blood all over Ling Huchong's face and chest. His breathing was so weak that it almost seemed there was more air breathed out of him than what was breathed in. He was not going to make it. Yue Buchun placed his palm on top of Ling Huchong's Ling Tai point on the back in an attempt to use his own high-level inner energy to keep Ling Huchong alive. But as soon as he tried to fill his inner energy in through the pressure points, several streams of weird energy inside Ling Huchong's body immediately countered it with a big shock and almost shook his palm off. Completely astounded, he soon discovered that those lunatic energy streams were clashing against each other non-stop inside Ling Huchong's body as well. He put his palm next to the Tanzhong point on Ling Huchong's chest, and sure enough, a strong shock struck his palm so hard that even his own chest started hurting with a dull pain. Yue Buchun was astonished even more this time. He could tell that those energy streams inside Ling Huchong's body flew in odd ways. Apparently, they came from some type of advanced yet unorthodox Qigong techniques. Even though each energy stream by itself was slightly weaker than his divine art of violet twilights, as soon as two of them attack in the same direction or at the same time, he could no longer hold them off on his own. After some more careful detection, he counted a total of 6 energy streams inside Ling Huchong, and each of them was weird and bizarre. Afraid to continue, Yue Buchun pulled his palm back and pondered. There are a total of 6 energy streams. Then, of course, it had to be those 6 freaks who filled those... Then, of course, it had to be those 6 freaks who filled those into Chong's body. The 6 freaks are so vicious, they must have tortured Chong so badly by filling their own inner energy into 6 different channels inside Chong's body. So Chong would suffer constantly, and wouldn't even have the option to end his own misery by committing suicide. Yue Buchun knitted his brows heavily and shook his head. After telling Gao Genming and Lu Dayou to carry Ling Huchong inside, he went to check on his wife. Madame Yue was still in shock. While sitting on the bedside holding her daughter's hands, she looked terrified. Her face was as white as a sheet. As soon as she saw Yue Buchun, she asked, How's Chong doing? How serious is his injury? Yue Buchun explained how the 6 energy streams clashed and fought each other inside Ling Huchong's body. We've got to dissolve those 6 heterodox energy streams one by one. Do you think there's still time? Madame Yue asked. Yue Buchun raised his head and pondered. After a long while, he finally spoke again. Junior Apprentice Sister, what's your opinion on why the 6 freaks tortured Chong so badly? I guess they wanted Chong to give in and surrender. Or maybe they were trying to force out some kind of secret from our school from him. Chong, of course, would rather die than submit. That's why the 6 ugly freaks tortured him, Madame Yue suggested. That would be a logical explanation in ordinary situations, Yue Buchun nodded. But our school doesn't have any secret. Those 6 freaks don't know us at all and have no grudges against us. Why would they send him back after successfully kidnapping him in the first place? I am afraid it couldn't be. Madame Yue thought of an idea, but immediately dismissed it because it did not really make a lot of sense. The couple stared at each other in silence, each pondering hard with knitted brows. Although our school doesn't have any secret, Huashan-style Kung Fu has great reputation. Maybe those 6 freaks kidnapped Big Apprentice Brother so they could force him to tell the key elements of our school's Qigong techniques and sword art techniques. Yue Lingshan couldn't help but cut in. I've thought about this, Yue Buchun said, but Chong's inner energy isn't that advanced. Those 6 freaks have very advanced inner energy themselves, so they could easily tell. And regarding sword skills, the 6 freaks' Kung Fu style is far from Huashan-style sword art. They don't have anything in common. It makes no sense for them to go through so much trouble just for that. Besides, if they did want to compel Chong into telling them about sword techniques, they should have gone to somewhere far from Mount Huashan so they could torture and force Chong with no rush. Why did they bring him back here? From Yue Buchun's tone of voice, Madame Yue could tell that he was getting more and more affirmative. Having been his wife for so many years, she knew that her husband had already solved the mystery. So she asked, then what's really the reason behind? Use Chong's internal injury to exhaust my energy, Yue Buchun said slowly, his face looking solemn and serious. Madame Yue jumped to her feet. That's right. In order to save Chong's life, you've got to use your own inner energy to dissolve those 6 energy streams. By the time you are about to succeed, if those 6 ugly freaks suddenly came while you would be totally exhausted, they would be at their ease. Then they could easily kill all of us. She paused for a brief moment and then continued. Fortunately, there are only 5 freaks left. Senior Apprentice Brother, they had already taken me a prisoner earlier. Why did they let me go after Chong shouted at them? She felt the terror again as she remembered the horrible incident she had just experienced moments earlier. Her voice trembled again. That's exactly the cause for my conclusion, Yue Buchun explained. You killed one of them. They must have had extraordinary hatred for us. But they immediately set you free only because they were afraid that Chong would shut down his own arteries and commit suicide. Think about it. If they didn't have a big conspiracy, why would they value Chong's life so much? Their wickedness and ruthlessness are to the extreme, Madame Yue murmured as she thought to herself. When the four freaks ripped Chang Bu-yo into pieces, they showed tremendous cruelty. Such level of cruelty is rarely seen in the entire martial world. In the last several days, my heart has been hammering every time I thought about it. Their interruption did put a pause on Fang Buping's plan to take over the headmaster post. Fang Buping ended up leaving disappointed with Lu Bai and the bunch. Those 6 freaks definitely took care of the problem for the Huashan school temporarily. Who would have thought that they would come back to Mount Huashan to cause more trouble? It must have been just like what Senior Apprentice Brother has figured out. At that thought, Madame Yue said, You can't work on Chong with your inner energy. My energy mastery is far less than yours, but let's hope it's good enough to keep him alive, temporarily. She started to head toward the door. Junior Apprentice Sister, Yue Buchun called out. Madame Yue paused and turned her head back. It's no use. Those 6 freaks' energy streams are very powerful. Yue Buchun shook his head. So only your divine art of violet twilight is capable of dissolving them, isn't it? What should we do then? Madame Yue asked. Right now, we can only take one step at a time and see where it will lead us. Let's first keep him breathing. That doesn't require much of my inner energy anyway, Yue Buchun suggested. The 3 went into the room Ling Huchang was placed in. Madame Yue's tears started rolling again as soon as she saw Ling Huchong lying there, motionless, hardly breathing at all. She reached out to check on Ling Huchong's pulse, but Yue Buchun caught her hand with his own. He let her hand go after shaking his head slightly. Pressing both hands onto Ling Huchong's palms, Yue Buchun slowly passed his inner energy over. As soon as his energy clashed with the energy streams inside Ling Huchong, Yue Buchun's body shook abruptly, and he took a step back, his face turning violet. Ling Huchong suddenly started talking. Where is apprentice brother Lin? Why do you need little Lin? Yue Lingshan asked in surprise. Before his father passed away, he wanted me to take a message to apprentice brother Lin. I haven't had a chance to tell him. I am not going to make it this time. Find him, hurry, Ling Huchong murmured, his eyes still shut tight. Tears started rolling in Yue Lingshan's eyes. She covered her face and ran out of the room. All of the Huashan School apprentices had been waiting outside. Getting the message from Yue Lingshan, Lin Pingzhi went inside right away and walked by Ling Huchong's bed. Alright, 5-minute break, you guys. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm back. Did you guys catch that ad at the beginning of the song? That was I was playing YouTube and there was an ad at the beginning. It wasn't some weird porn. I promise. I promise. No, really. Okay. Alright, I'm gonna eat this. Check it out. P-Joy. I don't think that's how you pronounce it. It's caramel macchiato flavor. Mmm. Alright. I hope it's good. Oh, it does smell like caramel macchiato. I haven't had Starbucks in a while. This is the next best thing. Yep. That's definitely a macchiato. I was watching P-Joy porn. Thanks, Losh. It was pretty good. Oh my god. How about I just keep eating the entire stream? Well, how else do you pronounce it, guys? How do you pronounce that? Payjoy. Pajoy. Pejjoy. I really like P-Joy though. That's what I feel when I pee. Timothy, you mean you watch anime? Is that bad? Why is that bad? That's not bad. There's some really good anime out there. Eat it all? Dude, you know how many sticks there are in here? There's like 20 sticks. can't shove that all in my mouth. I don't have experience with all that stuff in my mouth. I don't have experience shoving things in my mouth. Pihoy. Pehoy. Oh, is it pehoy? Pehoy. That sounds, yeah, that's probably right. Pehoy. Every paragraph, eat a stick. That's funny. Okay, so Master Wife stabs one of the fairies right in the chest, and then they almost kill her, but then they're stopped by Ling Hu Chong saying he's gonna kill himself. So they run away. They run away, and we don't know what happened to that guy. Right? Did he die? Did he not die? And now it looks like Ling Hu Chong wants to tell Lin Pingzhi what his dying father said right before he died. Right? Big apprentice brother, you need to take care, Lin Pingzhi said. Is this apprentice brother Lin? Ling Hu Chong asked. Yes, it's me, Lin Pingzhi answered. Right before your father passed away, I was by his side. He wanted me to tell you. He wanted me to tell you. Ling Hu Chong's voice became weaker and weaker, as if he had ran out of breath. Everyone held his or her breath. The room was swept with dead silence. After quite a while, Ling Hu Chong finally caught his breath. He continued. He said that you should take good care of the thing in the old Lin house at the Qiangyang Alley in Fuzhou. But you shall never read it, or great misfortune will fall upon you. The old Lin house at the Qiangyang Alley? That has been left vacant for a good while. There's nothing of importance there. What is this thing that my father told me not to read? Lin Pingzhi asked in surprise. I don't know. Those are the words, all the words your parents wanted me to tell you. They didn't say anything else before they passed away. Ling Hu Chong's voice went weaker again. The four of them waited a few more moments, but Ling Hu Chong remained silent. Yue Buchun heaved a sigh and then said to Lin Pingzhi and Yue Lingshan, Wait here by your big apprentice brother's side. If his injury has any change, come and tell me right away. Lin and Yue both nodded. The Yue couple went back to their own room, both feeling very depressed. Only moments later, tears slowly streamed down Madame Yue's cheeks once again. Don't be upset. We'll definitely avenge Chong, Yue Buchun assured her. Since those 6 freaks plotted this venomous scheme, they will come back again for sure. If we fight them recklessly, we might not necessarily lose, but if anything goes wrong, Madame Yue said. We might not necessarily lose? That's far easier said than done. If we fight the 3 of them together, we would end up a draw, at most. If we fight 4 of them together, then most likely we will lose. The 5 of them all jump on us If the 5 of them all jump on us simultaneously, Yue Buchun shook his head slowly. Madame Yue knew herself that the 2 of them would be no match for the 5 freaks in a fight, but she had hoped that since her husband's kung fu had greatly improved in the last several years after he successfully mastered the divine art of Violet Twilight, there might still be a small chance of winning. When she heard Yue Buchun's words, she became greatly worried. Then what are we to do? Are we going to just fold our arms and await destruction? Don't get dispirited. A true man can handle both good times and bad times. Winning or losing doesn't have to be determined right away. It is never too late for revenge, even if we have to wait for 10 years, Yue Buchun suggested. Are you suggesting that we run away? Madame Yue asked. We are not running away. We are only avoiding them, temporarily. Right now, the enemies outnumber us. We only have two. How could we beat the 5 of them all together? Since you have already killed one of the freaks, we have really gotten the upper hand of it already. Avoiding them temporarily will do no harm to our Huashan school's reputation. Besides, as long as we keep this to ourselves, outsiders would never know anything about it, Yue Buchun explained. Yeah, that's called running away, dude. Yep, Madame Yue said with a sob. Even though I killed one of the freaks, Chong could die any minute now. We really only got even in this conflict. Chong. She paused for a second and then said, All right, let's use your idea. We'll bring Chong together with us and then try to heal his injury gradually. Yue Buchun heaved a sigh but didn't answer. Do you mean that we can't bring Chong with us? Madame Yue asked anxiously. Chong's injury is very severe. If we bring him with us and travel at double the speed, he won't even last for an hour, Yue Buchun replied. Then what? Isn't there anything we can do to save him? Madame Yue asked in despair. Alas, I was determined to teach him the divine art of violet twilight the other day. Who would have expected that he went off into wild flights of imagination and tumbled into the evil route of the sword branch? If he had begun studying the secret formula, even just a page or 2 of it, he would have been able to manage his own inner energy for self-healing and not worry about the 6 heterodox energy streams. Yue Buchun heaved a sigh. This matter brooks no delay. Why don't you go teach him the divine art of violet twilight right away? Maybe he won't be able to understand all of it in his current sick state, but it would still be better than not learning it at all. Or you can leave the violet twilight manuscript with him so he can study it on his own, following the book. Madame Yue jumped onto her feet. Yue Buchun held Madame Yue's hands into his own and said softly, Junior apprentice sister, my love for Chong is no less than yours. But think about it. He has been so severely injured. How could he pay attention to me when I teach him the formulas and the various techniques? If I leave the Violet Twilight manuscript with him, so he could study from the book by himself when his mind becomes clearer, then when those 5 freaks come back to Mount Huashan in no time, since Chong would not be able to defend himself, what's going to happen to this most valued Qigong manuscript of our Huashan school? Those 5 freaks would get their hands onto it for sure, and if those heterodox people get a hold of the supreme orthodox Qigong manuscript of our Huashan school and was able to use it to help them harm the society a great deal more, I, Yue Buchun, would stand condemned through the ages. Thinking that her husband's words were quite reasonable, Madame Yue couldn't help but shed more tears. Those 5 freaks don't do things in the ordinary order. No one can predict what they might do next. We don't have any time to waste. Let's get on the road right away, Yue Buchun said. Are we going to just leave Chong here and let those 5 freaks torture him more? I'll stay to guard him, Madame Yue proposed. As soon as the words came out of her mouth, she immediately realized that it was just an act on impulse of an ordinary housewife, not something that would suit her status as the heroine of the Huashan school. If she stayed, it would only result in sacrificing one more life for nothing. How could she protect Ling Huchong at all? Besides, if she had decided to stay, then how would her husband and daughter ever agree to leave Mount Huashan without her? Feeling great worries and sorrows, her tears poured down non-stop. Yue Buchun shook his head and let out a long sigh. He moved aside his pillow and took out a thin iron box. After removing the lid, he took out a brocade-covered booklet. Putting the booklet inside his chest pocket, he pushed the door open and walked out. To his surprise, he found Yue Lingshan standing outside the door. Daddy, I'm afraid that big apprentice brother is not going to pull through, Yue Lingshan said. What happened? Yue Buchun asked in shock. He keeps raving about things, and it seems that he is in a state of delirium, Yue Lingshan replied. What did he rave about? Yue Buchun asked. I don't understand what he raved about, Yue Lingshan answered with a blush. It turned out that under the torments from those 6 energy streams in his body, and seeing Yue Lingshan standing right in front of him, in his wooziness, Ling Huchong blurted out without thinking, Little apprentice sister, I really miss you. Have you fallen in love with apprentice brother Lin and decided to ignore me now? Ah, dude, why did you say that? So embarrassing. Even in her wildest imagination, Yue Lingshan had never expected that Ling Huchong would ask such a question right in front of Lin Pingzhi. She blushed big time, feeling ultimately embarrassed. Then she heard Ling Huchong murmuring again. Little apprentice sister, we grew up together since we were kids. We played together and practiced sword art together. I really don't know how and where I displeased you. If you are mad at me, you can punch me. You can swear at me. Even if you stab me with your sword, I won't have any complaints. But please don't be so cold to me and totally ignore me. Ling Huchong had been thinking about those words again and again, inwardly, over the last couple of months. If he were to be conscious, he would not have dared to speak them out, even if he was with Yue Lingshan alone. But since he had no self-constraint at the moment, he really spilled his heart out. I'll just be outside, Lin Pingzhi said in embarrassment. No, just you stay here and watch over big apprentice brother, Yue Lingshan uttered, and then rushed out of the door. Yeah, I would run out too. She ran straight toward her parents' room, but when she arrived at the door, she heard the using divine art of violet twilight to heal the injury discussion between her parents, so she waited at the door, daring not to interrupt. Go send out my order to everyone. I want everybody to come to the House of Integrity, Yue Buchun said to Yue Lingshan. Yes, but what about Big Apprentice's brother? Who's going to care for him? Yue Lingshan asked. Tell Dayo to look after him, Yue Wuchun answered. Yue Lingshan took the order and then went on her way to inform everyone. Soon, all of Huashan School apprentices had gathered in the House of Integrity, and that's like the main hall, and lined up based on school seniority. Yue Buchun sat down in the armchair in the middle. Madame Yue sat in a chair next to him. After casting a quick glance at the crowd and confirming that all except Ling Huchong and Lu Dayo had arrived, Yue Buchun started addressing all the apprentices. Among last generation senior masters of our sword school, some of them strayed onto the wrong road. They kept perfecting sword techniques, but ignored the practice of inner energy with Qigong techniques. They hardly realized that all advanced martial arts require Qigong techniques to build a solid foundation. If one can't master Qigong techniques, then regardless of how well he has mastered his sword techniques, he would never be able to reach the acme of martial arts. Acme is like the tip, the top. But unfortunately, those last generation senior masters obstinately stuck to a wrong course. They went on their own way to create a new branch called Huashan Sword Branch and called our orthodox Kung Fu Huashan Qi Branch. The dispute between the Qi branch and the sword branch went on for many decades, which greatly obstructed the development and growth of our Huashan school. What a great calamity it is. He paused and heaved a deep sigh. Madame Yue thought inwardly, those 5 freaks could show up at any moment, and you are still here telling old stories with leisure. She cast a side glance to her husband, but dared not to interrupt. Throwing a peek at the inscribed board where it said House of Integrity, she thought to herself, at the time when I first joined Huashan School to learn sword arts, the words inscribed on the board were really Horse of Sword Towering the Clouds, but now it has been changed to House of Integrity. No one even remembers where the old board might be. Alas, I was only a 13-year-old little girl at the time. Now... Yue Buchun continued. But what's righteous and what's evil, what's right and what's wrong, the truth would eventually shine at the end. 25 years ago, the Sword Branch took a crushing defeat and withdrew from our Huashan school. I have been the headmaster of the Huashan school ever since. Several days ago, a group of expelled apprentices of our school, Fang Buping, Chang Wuyo, and some others, came back to Mount Huashan. I am not sure how they did it, but they succeeded in convincing the alliance chief of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance, Chief Zhuo, by cheats and lies, and came to seize the headmaster post of our Huashan school with Alliance Chief Zhuo's command flag. I have been holding the post of headmaster in our school for many years. There are plenty of tedious internal tasks associated with the job, not mentioning all the things to deal with when the 5 sword schools meet. I've long thought about relinquishing my post in favor of somebody more qualified, so I could dedicate myself to the task of studying advanced Qigong techniques of our school. I should really be only too glad to hear that somebody is willing to take over with the duties. At that word, he paused again. Master, Fang Buping and the other Sword Branch expelled apprentices have all gone on the evil route. They are really no different from members of the demon cult. We should never even let them come back to join our Huashan school. How can we ever let them take the headmaster post of our school with their wishful thinking? Gao Genming commented. We'll never let their audacious plot succeed. Lao Denhua, Liang Fa, Xu Daizhi, and the rest of the apprentices exclaimed all together. Chat is very embarrassed for Ling Huchong. Yeah, Lin Pingzhi was very awkward. Thought that was very awkward at that moment. Seeing that all the apprentices' feeling ran high, Yue Buchun let out a slight smile. It's really not important whether I am the headmaster or not. But if the heterodox people from the Sword Branch ruled our school, all the hundreds of years worth of Huashan schools' vast, comprehensive, and profound kung fu techniques would all be destroyed in a moment. When we one day return to the underworld, how would we ever face the spirits of many generations of Huashan sword senior masters? And the reputation of our Huashan school would be held in contempt by everyone in the martial world. That's right. How can we ever let that happen? Lao Denhua and the bunch of apprentices said in unison. I wouldn't worry too much about Feng Buping and the rest of the Sword Branch expelled apprentices, Yue Buchun went on. But since they were able to bring the command flag of the Five Mountains Sword Alliance, and also able to collaborate with people from Songshan, Taishan, and Hangshan, those schools, this is no small matter. That's why... He swept his eyes over the apprentices and spoke again. We'll be leaving today to see Alliance Chief Zhuo at Mount Songshan and have it out with him. All the apprentices were shocked. The Songshan Sword School was the leader in the Five Mountains Sword Alliance, and the headmaster of the Songshan School, Zhuo Lengchan, was considered a top-notch in the martial world. Not only had his kung fu skills reached the acme of perfection, they love that word, his reputation as a quick-witted and resourceful mind was also well known. Any time when the name Alliance Chief Zhuo was mentioned, everyone would get a shiver of cold. In the martial world, when one had it out with someone else, the dispute normally wouldn't stop at an oral discussion. Any heated word might lead to a fierce physical fight. All the apprentices couldn't help but think the same thought. Master's kung fu is excellent, but he most likely is still no match for Alliance Chief Zhuo. Besides, the Songshan School's Alliance Chief has 12 apprentice brothers. People in the martial world call them the 13 Guardians of Songshan. Even though great Songyang Palm Fabian has passed away, there are still a total of 12 of them left, and each of the 12 is a first-class elite fighter. Someone a second-generation Huashan apprentice would have no chance of resisting. Isn't it a bit too reckless to stir up trouble on Mount Songshan? Every one of the apprentices thought so, yet no one dared to speak up. Hearing what her husband had just said, Madame Yue immediately praised inwardly. This idea is awesome. We are leaving our base, Mount Huashan, so we could avoid the 5 Peach Valleys' freaks. Once the news spreads out, Huashan School would have no face left. But if we were heading up Mount Songshan to have it out with Alliance Chief Zhou, others would only admire our courage. Alliance Chief Zhou is not the unreasonable type. Once we get to Mount Songshan, it's not necessary that we'll end up in a deadly fight. There's gonna be a lot of rooms and cushions in between. So she immediately picked up the line. Willow, yeah. Apex could be a better word than Acme. I don't know. Acme is starting to grow on me. That's right. Feng Buping did bring the command flag of the 5 Mountain Sword Alliance up Mount Huashan, but who knows, he could very possibly have stolen or robbed the command flag from someone else. Even if it's true that Alliance Chief Zhou did award them the command flag, that this is the internal matter of our Huashan school. The Songshan school has no say in this at all. Sure, Songshan school has more members. The Alliance Chief Zhou has superb kung fu skills, but we, Huashan school members, would rather die than submit. Any one of you who has no guts and is afraid might as well stay. None of the apprentices wanted to look like a coward, so they all answered, "We will follow Master and Master Wife's orders and never hesitate to go through fire and water for Master and Master Wife." Perfect. The matter brooks no delay. Go pack your stuff. We'll get on the road in 1 hour, Madame Yue commanded. Before starting the trip, Madame Yue went to check on Ling Huchong again. Seeing Ling Huchong's lifeless face, she felt great pain and grievance deep in her heart. But the 5 Peach Valleys' freaks could come back in any moment. She simply couldn't risk having Mount Huashan completely wiped out just for Ling Huchong's sake. So she had Lu Dayo move Ling Huchong into the little hut at the back. "Dayo," she said, "we are going to Mount Songshan to have it out with Alliance Chief Zhou for the sake of our Huashan school's future. This is going to be a very risky trip. We just hope that under the direction from your master, we will be able to uphold justice and all come back safely. Chong's injury is very severe. You will take good care of him. If any enemy comes to attack, try your best to avoid conflict, even if you have to endure humiliation. Don't let Chong and yourself get killed for nothing." Lu Dayu nodded his acknowledgement with tears in his eyes. So they're just going to leave him there. After Lu Dayu saw Master, Master Wife, and all the apprentice brothers and sisters off Mount Huashan, he went back to the little hut where Ling Huchong was resting. By now, the entire Huashan school on Mount Huashan only had 2 residents. One was his big apprentice brother, who was still in a coma. The other one was himself, completely alone and on his own. He found himself in a state of anxiety. The deepening dusk only made him more afraid of the unforeseen future. After making a pot of rice soup in the kitchen, he filled a bowl and propped Ling Huchong up to have some. Only at the 3rd swallow, Ling Huchong coughed all the soup out. Only at the 3rd swallow, Ling Huchong coughed all the soup out. The white rice soup had turned red. Ling Huchong must have coughed all the blood in his stomach out, together with it. While feeling terrified, Lu Dayo helped Ling Huchong lie down again. Setting the soup bowl down, he stared at the darkness outside of the window blankly and fell into a trance. He had no idea how long he had been in a daze when several owl calls woke him. "It is said that when an owl calls, it is really counting a patient's eyebrows," he thought. "By the time the owl finishes counting, it would be the moment for the patient to die." So he put his finger into his mouth to gather some spit and then smeared it on Ling Huchong's eyebrows so the owl would have a real hard job counting them. I guess that's the thing. I never heard of that before. Suddenly, sounds of footsteps came from the mountain path. Lu Dao blew out the oil lamp hurriedly. His sword in his hand, he guarded by Ling Huchong's bedside. The sounds came closer and closer, and it seemed that someone was heading straight toward the little hut. Lu Dao's heart almost jumped out of his chest. He thought to himself, It seems that the enemy knows very well that Big Apprentice Brother is resting over here. That's terrible. How can I protect Big Apprentice Brother from any harm? Alright, let's take another break. I need to rest my voice. Oh, you want to see my background? Sure, I can show you. Yeah. I forgot where I got that. It's like from a long time ago. It looks cool, right? My background changes like every, I don't know, every half an hour or something, or 20 minutes. It'll switch to a new background. Oh, Gurung Yogesh, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, Lieutenant Quattro lunch gone. I don't even know what that means. I know who Lieutenant Quattro is. All right. 5 minutes. I'll be right back. That was from Inuyasha. That's some good squid. I think I'm gonna buy it again. So yeah, if you guys see this at the store somewhere, go buy it. It's really good. Prepared breaded squid. Smoked. Share with you? I would love to share with you. I don't know how. How do I do that? I can share with you a video of me eating it, like right now. Mukbang with the potato. That's not a potato. All right, someone is coming towards them. Let's see who. Then he heard a girl's voice whispering into the room. Monkey 6, are you inside? It turned out to be the voice of Yue Lingshan. Is that little apprentice sister? I am in here, Lu Dao answered with unspeakable joy. He lit the oil lamp again, but in the hurry and excitement, he splashed the oil all over his hands. Yue Lingshan pushed the door open and walked in. How's Big Apprentice's brother? She asked. He just coughed some more blood, Lu Dao answered. Yue Lingshan walked by the bedside and reached out to feel Ling Huchong's forehead. It was burning hot. How come he's coughing blood again? She asked in a frown. Suddenly, Ling Huchong spoke out. Little Little apprentice sister? Is it you? Yes, big apprentice brother. How do you feel right now? Yue Lingshan asked softly. I'm feeling all right, Ling Huchong murmured. Yue Lingshan took out a pack from her chest pocket. Big apprentice brother, this is the Violet Twilight manuscript. Dad said that. Oh, she stole it. Violet Twilight manuscript? Ling Huchong uttered in surprise. That's right. Dad said that you are suffering from heterodox Kung Fu masters' energy streams, and only our own school's most supreme inner energy techniques can dissolve them. Monkey 6, you read the manuscript word for Big Apprentice Brother, but you must not study any of it yourself. Otherwise, if Dad finds out about it, you know the consequences. Yue Lingshan exclaimed. Lu Dayou was overjoyed. He answered hurriedly, I'm just a bum. How would I ever dare to secretly study the most supreme inner energy techniques of our school? You can rest assured, this is great. In order to save Big Apprentice Brothers' life, Master is even willing to make an exception and bestow the manuscript to him. Thank goodness, Big Apprentice Brother can be saved now. You must not mention this to anyone. I stole the manuscript from underneath my dad's pillow, Yue Lingshan whispered. What? I love that. What? Did you say that you stole Master's manuscript of inner energy techniques? What if Master finds out about it? Lu Dayou was shocked. So what? You think I'm gonna get killed for doing this? Dad will probably give me a good beating and scolding at most. If Big Apprentice Brother could survive because of it, Mom and Dad will surely be overjoyed and forgive me for what I did, Yue Lingshan answered. Right. Saving life is more urgent matter here, Lu Dayou said in agreement. Little apprentice sister, you bring it back to Master, Ling Huchong suddenly interrupted. Why? Yue Lingshan asked in surprise. It was no easy task to steal the manuscript, and I had to travel miles of mountain path in the dark to make it back. Why don't you want it? This is not a matter of studying Kung Fu on the sly. This is a matter of life and death. She's right. Big Apprentice Brother, you don't have to study everything out of it. Just enough so you can dissolve those 6 freaks' inner evil energy streams. Then you can return the manuscript back to Master. By then, Master will probably bestow the manuscript to you officially. You are the head apprentice of our school, so of course you are the one who will get awarded this manuscript. Who else will ever have the opportunity? You are only getting it a little bit earlier. What's the matter? Lu Dayou couldn't agree more. The chat is being weird. Don't be weird, chat. Yue Lingshan checked under his nose. Wait. That's not where we ended. I would rather die than disobey Master's will, Ling Huchong replied. Master said it before that I can't study the divine art of Violet Twilight. Little apprentice sister. Little apprentice sister. Not able to catch his breath, Ling Huchong fell unconscious again. Yue Lingshan checked under his nose. The breathing was weak, but at least he was still breathing. After a sigh, she said to Lu Dayou, I've got to head back. Mom and Dad are going to be so worried if I don't make it back to the temple by dawn. Talk to Big Apprentice Brother, will you? Ask him to do as I said and study the Violet Twilight manuscript. Tell him not to forget that. She blushed for a second and then finished the sentence. I went through all the trouble of running around just for him. I will definitely talk to him, Lu Dayou replied. Little apprentice sister, where are you lodging at? We lodge at the White Horse Temple tonight, Yue Lingshan answered. Oh, the White Horse Temple is like 10 miles from here. Little apprentice sister, I am sure Big Apprentice Brother will never forget the trouble you have gone through to make a 20-mile round trip in one night. I only wish that he could survive and recover. That would be the best. What does it matter if he remembers this or not? Yue Lingshan sobbed. She gently set the Violet Twilight manuscript booklet at the head of the bed. After staring at Ling Huchong's face for a moment, she ran out of the door. Ling Huchong didn't wake up until 2 hours later. Before he even opened his eyes, he had already cried out, "Little apprentice sister! Little apprentice sister!" "She left already," Lu Daiyu said. "She left?" Ling Huchong cried out. All of a sudden, he sat up and grabbed onto Lu Daiyu's collar band. That gave Lu Daiyu a good jolt. He explained hurriedly, "Yes, little apprentice sister has left. She said that if she couldn't make it back before dawn, master and master wife would get worried. Big apprentice brother, why don't you lie down to rest?" She left? She left with apprentice brother Lin? Ling Huchong murmured as if he didn't catch any of Lu Daiyu's words. "She is together with master and master wife," Lu Daiyu explained, but Ling Huchong only responded with a blank stare and a twitched face. "Big apprentice brother," Lu Daiyu said in a soft voice, "little apprentice sister cares about you very much. A young girl like her, running back from White Horse Temple late at night, making a round trip of 20 miles, she really has deep affections for you. Before she left, she urged me again and again. She wants you to study the Violet Twilight manuscript and not to forget her feelings for you." "Did she say that?" Ling Huchong asked. "Yeah. Would I dare lie to you?" Lu Daiyu replied. "That's not what she said." It's okay. He's just looking out for his brother. Okay? He's just looking out for his bro. Ling Huchong could no longer hold himself steady. The back of his head banged heavily against the brick bed as he fell back down, but he didn't feel any pain at all. That gave Lu Daiyu another jolt. "Big apprentice brother, let me read it for you," Lu Daiyu said. He picked up the Violet Twilight manuscript. Turning to the first page, he started reading. "All forms of martial arts use inner energy as the base. The vast amount of righteous energy is bestowed upon us from heaven, but ordinary people are ignorant of the right way to preserve the energy and let their emotions to stand in the way instead. The perils of a martial are violent, arrogant, cruel, and evil. Being violent causes disturbance to the spirit, thus disrupts the energy flow. Being arrogant causes separation of spirit, thus makes the energy impetuous. Being cruel causes the void of humanity, thus strains the energy source. Being evil causes vicious behavior, thus shortens the energy breath. Those 4 perils are all like blades that would block and cut off energy flow." "What are you reading?" Ling Huchong asked. "That was the first chapter of the Violet Twilight manuscript," Lu Daiyu answered. "And after those, it's like this," he went on reading. "Abstain the 4 perils and return to many types of delicate kindness. Restrain your violent and cruel emotion to preserve your righteous energy stream. Beat the heaven drum, drink the jade honey, rinse the corona pool, and tap the golden beam. Follow the way and soon the effect will show." "This is the secret formula of our school. By reading it recklessly, you have already violated our school rule. Put it away immediately," Ling Huchong admonished in a strict voice. "Big apprentice brother, in urgent circumstances, a true man would do what is expedient instead of rigidly adhere to details. Right now, it's more important to save your life. Let me read to you some more," Lu Daiyu said. He went on reading, and the script started explaining the details of the advanced Qigong techniques, like how to beat the heaven drum and drink the jade honey, and how to rinse the corona pool and tap the golden beam. You should really rinse the corona pool, like very, very, very much. "Shut up!" Ling Huchong yelled out loudly. Lu Daiyu was taken by shock. He raised his head and asked, "Big apprentice brother, are you all right? Where does it hurt?" "My entire body hurts when I hear you read Master's manuscript of energy techniques. Are you trying to make me a disloyal and dishonorable man?" Ling Huchong roared angrily. No, no. How would that make you loyal and dishonorable? Lu Dayu was astounded. Master brought the Violet Twilight manuscript up to the cliff of contemplation the other day and wanted to teach me the techniques. But he found out that not only my way of practicing was way off, but also my natural endowment, so he changed his mind. Ling Huchong panted heavily and had a hard time to speak on. This time is for the sake of saving your life, not about studying the kung fu in sly. So it's a totally different matter, Lu Dayu argued. As apprentices, which is more important, our own lives or our master's orders? Ling Huchong asked. The most important thing is that master and master wife both want you to stay alive, let alone little apprentice sister's affections for you. She had to make such a long round trip late at night. How can you let her down? Lu Dayu said. Ling Huchong felt a sudden urge to cry, but he worked hard to hold the tears back. Just because she brought it here for me, I, Ling Huchong, am a man with pride. Why would I ever take pity from others? As soon as those words came out, his body shivered as he pondered upon himself. I am never a stickler for regulations. In order to save myself, what's the big deal if I do study the inner energy techniques of our own school? So the real reason why I don't want to study the divine art of Violet Twilight is because I am mad at little apprentice sister. Deep in my heart, I resented the fact that little apprentice treats apprentice brother Lin with such affection and treats me coldly. Ling Huchong, look at you. When have you become so stingy? But when he thought that by the time of dawn, Yue Lingshan would join Lin Pingzhi again on the long trip to Mount Songshan, and they would travel side by side, chatting and singing folk songs together again, he could no longer hold on to his tears. Big apprentice brother, you've thought it wrong. Little apprentice sister grew up together with you. You are almost like brother and sister, Lu Dayu persuaded. That's exactly what I don't want to be, brother and sister, Ling Huchong thought, but he couldn't speak it out loud. Lu Dayu continued, I'll read on. You listen carefully. If you can't memorize it, I'll read it a couple of more times. All forms of martial arts use inner energy as the base. The vast amount of righteous energy is bestowed upon us from heaven. Stop it! Ling Huchong yelled out in a stern voice. Sure, big apprentice brother, Lu Dayu answered. In hope for your speedy recovery, I have no other choice but to disobey your order. I'll take all the blame for breaking master's order. You don't want to listen, but I just wouldn't let you. It was I, Lu Dayu, who insisted on reading it. You never even touched the Violet Twilight manuscript with a finger of yours. You never looked at a word in the manuscript either. What's your fault? You are laid up in bed and simply can't help it. It's I, Lu Dayu, who forced you to study it. All forms of martial arts use inner energy as the base. The vast amount of righteous energy is bestowed upon us from heaven. He just read on in a flow of eloquence. So one guy is like, he just keeps on reading. And the guy's like, stop. But he just kept on reading. Ling Huchong tried to ignore it, but word after word forced their way into his ears. He suddenly groaned loudly. Big apprentice brother, are you alright? Lu Dayu asked hurriedly. Will you please pad my pillow a bit higher? Ling Huchong asked. Sure, Lu Dayu answered and reached forward to pad Ling Huchong's pillow. Suddenly, Ling Huchong jabbed forward with all his strength, and his finger jabbed right onto the tanjiang point on Lu Dayu's chest. Lu Dayu fell down onto the bed without even a groan. Sixth apprentice brother, I'm sorry I have to do this. You can rest on the bed for half a day and then your sealed pressure point will open by itself, Ling Huchong said with a wry smile. Ling Huchong slowly struggled his way off the bed, throwing a stare at the Violet Twilight manuscript booklet for a moment. He finally heaved a sigh and walked by the door. Picking up the door bolt leaning against the wall, he used it as a crutch and stumbled out of the door. Ah, tricked them. He paralyzed them, and he's getting out of there. Greatly worried, Lu Dayo called out, Big, where are you going? Normally, when someone's Tanjong point was sealed, he would not be able to talk at all. But because Ling Huchong was so weak, his jab only made Lu Dayo's arms and legs numb and failed to completely paralyze him. Ling Huchong turned his head back. Sixth apprentice, brother, I want to stay as far away from the Violet Twilight manuscript as possible. I don't want anyone to see my dead body next to the manuscript and think that I studied the supreme techniques on the sly and died from fire deviation. I don't want to be looked down upon by apprentice brother Lin. At that word, he coughed again. More blood gushed out of his mouth and dripped down by his chin. Afraid that he might not be able to leave at all with his almost exhausted strength from any more delay, he took a deep breath and walked forward with the help from the door bolts. Relying on his strong will, he slowly made his way forward and ultimately disappeared in the dark. Done. Another chapter. All right. So he froze his sixth apprentice brother, and now he's leaving. Okay. So much for that. I guess he's not learning that supreme martial arts. Lush says, if you're cornered by a bad guy, just jab at their Tanjong point. Oh, I think we learned that, right? We're very familiar with this Tanjong point now, because I think didn't he use it on Tianbo Guang? Didn't he use it on Tianbo Guang? Yeah, Ling Huchong is not looking well. He's he doesn't seem to be doing very well. Hey, Andrian. Hello from Indonesia. Nice to meet you. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm from the United States. It really feels so fast during live. Yeah, it does feel fast, doesn't it? I think these chapters are shorter though. I believe they're a little bit shorter. But it has been like an hour and a half. Almost 2 hours. Ah, so he did use it on Tianbo Guang. Alright. So jab someone on the Tanjong point. Where is the Tanjong point anyways? Can we look it up? Alright, let's look it up. We're studying martial arts right now. Chest center. It's in the middle of the chest. Okay, hold on. Right here. Right there. All right, yeah. So if you're fighting with someone, just jab them with with 2 fingers at the middle of their chest, and they will freeze, and you will win the fight. Okay, that's how it works. This chapter was a split. Well, they're all split chapters. Yeah, they're all, or most of them have a part 1 and a part 2. I think these are just a little bit shorter, but I think the chapters before were a little longer. That's the sleep button. That's right. All right. You know what goes well with shredded squid? Some freaking Tennessee whiskey. All right. We almost finished this. Like, I rarely drink this outside of the stream, but yeah, we're more than halfway. All right. Linfamy, please scold Lin so he gets help. Who's Lin? Bad Lin. Bad. Oh, you mean Ling Hu Chong? Yeah. Yeah, he's walking out into he's like super he's almost dead and he's just walking out by himself. Alright guys, cheers. Oof. What will be the next bottle of liquor? I don't know. I don't know, we'll have to find out. Nothing too strong, I hope. Alright guys. I think we're good. I'll see you next week. See you next week. And I love you. And goodbye.